Where the Forest Begins. Chapter 1. The Silent Town. Grimdal awakened to an unusual heavy silence. Anders sensed it immediately as he opened his eyes. No hum of cars, no footsteps of neighbors, not even the morning birdsong. He threw on a jacket over his sweater and peered out the window. The street was deserted, rooftops dusted with snow, and in the distance, like a dark blot on the white, something moved. He squinted. It wasn't a person. "What is that?" he muttered, grabbing his binoculars. Moments later, he was already walking down the snowy street, phone in hand. Local social media buzzed with rumors. A wild cat seen near the pharmacy, by the station, at the library. A snow leopard? Here? In Scandinavia? It seemed impossible. At the Market Square crossing, he stopped. Coming toward him at a calm, measured pace was Linnea, a sturdy woman in a weathered field jacket, holding a thermos. She was well known in town, an expert in wildlife, the one people called when they found an injured owl or a lost moose. "You saw it?" Anders asked. "I did. It didn't run. Didn't growl. It's calling," she replied, gazing toward the tracks vanishing around the corner. Anders felt a shiver, not from the cold, but from the strange sense that something important was happening. As if nature itself had stepped into the streets, pleading to be heard. The leopard appeared again, from an alleyway, majestic and silent. It paused, locking eyes with them, then turned and slowly padded toward the town's northern edge. "Do we follow?" Anders asked, his throat tightening. "We already are," Linnea said. "You, me, and him. We're in this now." And they walked after him. Snow crunched beneath their feet, and the town faded behind them. Ahead lay only silence, the forest, and a beast that did not want to attack. It wanted to be understood. Chapter 2. The Meeting at the Crossroads. The leopard walked slowly, as if burdened by fatigue. It paused at an old crossroads where a wooden signpost once stood. Now only a weather-worn stump remained. Its tail twitched slightly, ears flicking at every sound. It glanced back. Somewhere behind, snow crunched under careful footsteps. Anders moved cautiously, trying to step in the leopard's track so as not to alarm it. His heart pounded, not from fear, but anticipation. His mind raced between two thoughts. This could be dangerous and he's trying to tell us something. Linnea crouched down ahead of him, examining the paw prints. Their spacing, shape, and clarity told her everything. This wasn't a hunter. This was something else, a signal. "He's walking with purpose," Anders said quietly. "He knows where he's going." "Animals don't show vulnerability without reason," Linnea murmured. "He's leading us. That's rare, especially from a predator." For a long moment, they walked in silence. The forest ahead grew denser. Fir trees, bare branches, and snow-laden shrubs filled the space between their thoughts. The tracks remained steady, straight, unwavering. Now and then, the leopard glanced back, checking on them. To Anders, it felt unreal. "What if it's a trap?" he asked suddenly. "What if he's just leading us away?" Linnea stopped and looked him straight in the eye. "If he wanted that, he would have vanished into the trees by now, or attacked. He's not our enemy. You feel that, don't you?" Anders nodded. He did feel it, a strange, unspoken connection that defied logic. This wasn't fear. It was a call. "Follow me, because you must." They emerged into a clearing where the snow was softer and the wind quieter. The leopard stood at its center, tail still, gaze fixed on the forest beyond. Then, without urgency, he turned and stepped into the woods. "We can't go back now, can we?" Anders asked. "We made the choice the moment we didn't turn away," Linnea replied. The forest swallowed them slowly. Behind them, the town was only a memory. Ahead was something else entirely, something sacred, quiet, and raw. The beginning of something unknown. Chapter 3. Tracks in the crunching snow. The snow beneath their feet crunched softly, commenting on each step. Anders led the way, keeping his eyes on the trail. Deep, deliberate paw prints stretching into the woods. The cold bit at his face, his breath turned to mist. But something stronger than discomfort kept him moving. Something important. something alive. He's still moving in a straight line, no wandering, Anders noted over his shoulder. He definitely knows where he's going. Linnea raised her eyes to the forest, as if listening for something hidden in the trees. Animals don't move like this unless there's purpose. If he's slowing down, it's not from confusion. It's from worry, she replied. They walked in silence for a while. The forest grew denser with every step. Snow deepened. At times their legs sank almost to the knees, but the trail remained, clear, determined, as if carved into the crust. Occasionally the leopard would glance back to make sure they were still following. Anders could hardly believe what he was witnessing. "What if this is a mistake?" he asked suddenly. "What if we're being lured away?" Linnea stopped. Her breath came out in a mist as she looked at him. If he wanted to lose us, he'd already be gone. Or he'd turn on us. But he hasn't. You know that. Anders nodded. He knew. Deep down, past logic and training, he felt it. A wordless pull. Come. You're needed. Soon the trees opened into a small plateau. At its center lay an old stone well, half hidden beneath moss and twisted roots. The leopard stood beside it, circling anxiously. Anders hurried to the edge and looked down. His breath caught. Curled up on the wet stone far below, a small leopard cub shivered, barely moving. "He brought us here to this," Anders whispered. Linnea knelt beside him. Her expression was calm, focused, maternal in a way that needed no words. "We were meant to find this. Now we can't afford to fail." Chapter 4, Over the Abyss. Anders knelt at the edge of the well, staring into the darkness. The beam of his headlamp slid over moss-covered stones and caught the outline of a tiny soaked body at the bottom. The cub hardly moved, only a faint twitch, a shiver. Anders felt his chest tighten. He was back in a memory of being a boy, helpless before a dying puppy. But now he wasn't helpless. Now he had a choice. Linnea lowered herself beside him and placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "He's alive. That's what matters. But we need gear. Fast," she said, already calculating depth and angles. I've never done anything like this," Anders admitted. "What if we mess this up?" "Then we'll be careful. But don't let fear be your decision," Linnea said firmly. "Fear doesn't rescue anyone." They knew they had no time to waste. A few minutes' walk away stood an old forestry station Linnea remembered from past patrols. She led the way, breaking through the snow-draped underbrush. Anders followed close behind, heart pounding. Every step deeper into the woods felt like a step deeper into purpose. The station was locked, but the rusty padlock gave way easily. Inside was a mess of dust, broken glass, and forgotten tools, but also what they needed: coils of rope, harnesses, a transport cage, a few carabiners, and weathered tarps. They piled everything into a sled once used for hauling gear and dragged it back to the well. The leopard was still there, still waiting. He hadn't left, hadn't run. He sat beside the well like a sentry, eyes locked on the dark hole. "He's waiting," Anders said quietly. "He trusts we'll help." "Then let's show him we're worth that trust," Linnea answered. They worked quickly and without unnecessary words. They unfolded the cage, reinforced its frame, and attached the rope system with careful hands. Inside, they placed pieces of meat from Linnea's insulated bag, something warm and familiar to draw the cub in. The rope creaked through the carabiners. Every knot had to be perfect. When the cage began its slow descent into the well, Anders gripped the rope until his knuckles turned white. The leopard circled the opening, eyes following every movement. "He's noticed the scent," Anders said, glancing into the depths. "Now we wait." "He has to choose to go in himself," Linnea murmured, listening closely to the quiet below. Minutes passed like hours. Then came a soft scrape, claws against metal. The cage shifted slightly. "He's inside," Anders whispered. "He went in." Linnea gave a single nod. "Then we pull, and we don't fail." Chapter 5, The Final Pull. The rope stretched taut, creaked under tension, and the cage slowly began its ascent from the depths. Anders gripped the line, feeling it burn against his palms, raw, wet, and already bleeding. He grit his teeth. Every muscle in his arms shook, but he wouldn't stop. He couldn't, not now. Just hold," he kept repeating silently to himself. Linnea stood at his side, managing the angle, adjusting the tension. The air was freezing, wind whipping across the clearing. The leopard perched on a fallen branch nearby, unmoving, but alert. His golden eyes never left the opening of the well. "If it slips," Anders started. "It won't," Linnea replied firmly. "Not now. Not with all of us here." A gust of wind caught the edge of the tarp, stinging Anders' face with snow. His vision blurred for a second. The last time he'd tried to save something small, he'd failed. Not this time. Around them, more people had gathered. Locals who had followed the news, a few volunteers from the forestry station, a woman from a nearby farm. Each silently took a place, took a rope, a handle, a corner. They didn't speak. They simply pulled. "He's in there," whispered the woman, her hands shaking but strong. "He's alive." Linnea glanced sideways at Anders. His face was pale, jaw clenched, but his grip hadn't faltered. "You're doing it," she said quietly. "You made the right call." "I just didn't want him to die because we were afraid," Anders murmured. The cage moved inch by inch. The forest was silent around them. No wind, no birds. Just the creak of rope, the whisper of breath. The leopard sat like a statue, ears flicking occasionally, his body coiled with silent tension. The final few meters were the hardest. The rope was slick, the cage swaying as it neared the edge. Someone slipped. A man swore under his breath. But the team held. Anders felt the weight of the animal, of the moment in his bones. Then, metal scraped against stone. The cage bumped the rim of the well, tilted, but didn't tip. With one last synchronized heave, they pulled it free and onto the snowy ground. Inside, soaked and trembling, the cub looked up with wide, glassy eyes. Nobody spoke. For several long seconds, there was only breath and the pounding of hearts. "He's alive," Linnea whispered. The leopard leapt down from his perch, not rushing, but not hesitating either. He took 3 slow steps forward. Everyone else instinctively stepped back. And in the sharp silence of the cold evening, for the first time that day, there was no fear. Chapter 6. Return to the forest. Night had fallen quietly. The snow gleamed faintly under the beam of a single flashlight, the clearing bathed in a pale, hushed glow. The cage sat on a woolen blanket near the well, its metal still damp from the mossy walls below. Inside, the small cub shivered, soaked and stunned, his eyes wide with fear and confusion. Anders stood nearby, one knee on the ground, breath ragged in the cold. His hands were torn, but he barely noticed. "He's so small," he whispered, "and all we did was pull a rope. And now, he's alive." Linnea nodded slowly, her eyes on the cage. "We didn't just pull. We chose to follow. We chose to care. That matters." The leopard stood at the edge of the light, his body still and low, but his gaze locked on the cage. He hadn't run. He hadn't attacked. He had waited. Snowflakes floated between them, delicate and silent. "Do we open it?" Anders asked. "It's time," Linnea said. "This part isn't ours anymore." Anders stepped forward, reached for the latch and opened it with a quiet click. The door creaked as it swung wide. The cub didn't move. He lay still, barely breathing. Then a low, gentle rumble echoed across the clearing. The mother's call, warm, deep, and soft. Not a command, an invitation. The cub stirred. His small body shook as he tried to stand. One trembling step, another. He paused, sniffed the air. His ears twitched. Then with a second, quieter call, the leopard urged him on. A third step, a fourth. The cub emerged fully from the cage, uncertain and drenched. Around him, no one spoke. No one moved. They simply watched. "Come on," Anders whispered, not sure if he was speaking to the cub, to himself, or to the world. The cub moved closer. When only a few feet separated them, the mother stepped forward. The cub broke into an awkward, stumbling run and buried himself into her chest. She wrapped her front legs around him, pressing her head down gently. No sound, just the snow and breath and the quietest moment of reunion. Everyone stepped back without being told. It felt sacred. Linnea wiped her eyes with the back of her sleeve. Do you think they'll survive? Anders asked. They already have, she replied. The leopard lifted her head. For one long moment, her eyes met theirs. There was no anger, no fear, only a deep, solemn calm. Then she nudged the cub and turned toward the forest. Together they slipped into the darkness. Anders stood still, chest rising and falling with quiet awe. We did what we could, he said. And it was enough, Linnea answered. The clearing fell into silence. The snow continued to fall, and somewhere deep in the trees life moved on.